Hello everybody. In this guitar lesson I'm going to teach you to play Don't Think Twice, It's Alright by Bob Dylan. Now I'll base this tutorial on the arrangement of Don't Think Twice, It's Alright from Dylan's 1963 album The Freewheelin Bob Dylan. Now this is a wonderful song to learn, as well as that incredible lyric that it's got. It's also perhaps Dylan's finest moment as an acoustic guitarist. It's got a brilliant Travis picking fingerstyle arrangement. Now it is a bit challenging to play, so if you're new to Travis picking, I'd actually recommend that you follow my lesson about Dylan's Girl from the North Country before you try this song, because Girl from the North Country, also a great Travis picking song, but a better one to learn Travis picking on because it's a bit simpler. This one's a little bit more complex. There are more bells and whistles. Now, Don't Think Twice, It's Alright uses a capo at the 4th fret. So, pop a capo onto the 4th fret of your guitar to follow along. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at the introduction to Don't Think Twice, It's Alright. Now, I'll demo it for you in a moment, but before I do, I just want to make two really important points about this introduction. The first one is that it's really key to learning the song because most of the patterns, most of the techniques, most of the motifs that you're going to have to use throughout the song appear first in this introduction. So if you can nail the introduction, then you're most of the way there to learning the song. There's not that much more to learn once you've learned the introduction. So we're really going to focus on this intro. So that's the first thing about the introduction. It's key to the song. The second point I want to make is that I'm not going to try and slavishly follow exactly what Dylan played in that 1963 day in the studio in New York when he recorded Don't Think Twice, It's Alright. If you listen to that recording, part of the charm of it is that there are some mistakes. You know, he muffs some of the notes, and I'm pretty sure if he were to play it 3 or 4 times back on that day in 1963, and he probably did, you know, you probably get 3 or 4 slightly different versions of the arrangement. So I'm not going to aim to get every note in exactly the same place as Dylan played it, but I'm going to aim to get a similar feel to Dylan's feel, and that's what I really want to get across to you in this lesson. That said, let me play you the introduction to the song. Okay then, let's start by looking at the first little part of the introduction, and in your left hand you want to start by fingering this C over G chord. The first part of the intro is going to go like this. So let's break that down. With our thumb we're going to play 5th string, and then with our thumb again 4th string, and then with our thumb the 6th string, and then the 3rd string with our index finger, and then the 4th string with our thumb. So that's the first phrase. Now let me play you that first phrase and the second phrase, and then we'll look at the second phrase. Here we go. Okay, so let's look at that then. So we have the first phrase. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to play the 2nd string here with our middle finger. But as soon as we've played that 2nd string with our middle finger, we're going to do 3 things. One is we're going to pull off our index finger on the left hand from that 2nd string. At the same time as we do that, we're going to change on our left hand to a G7 chord. And the third thing we're going to do simultaneously with that pull off is play the 6th string with our thumb. So if I put those things together, you've got this. And then after that, you're going to play 3rd string with your index finger and 4th string with your thumb. So we've got this. and I'll go from the beginning. Coordinating that pull off, the change to the G chord, and the playing of the 6th string with the thumb can be a bit of a challenge. Certainly took me a while to master that, so it's just the kind of thing you've got to go away and practice slowly lots of times until you've got it. So far we've got to here. And next we're going to do this. Okay, so we're staying basically on that G7 chord in the left hand. What we're going to do now is actually a hammer on. So we're going to remove our index finger from the 6th string, 1st fret there, relative to the capo. We're going to play that 6th string with our ring finger. And as soon as we've done that, we're going to do two things simultaneously. We're going to hammer our index finger back on to the top string, 1st fret. And as we do that, we're going to play the 6th string with our thumb. Okay, so like that. Do it one more time, hammer on and play the 6th string with the thumb. Once we've done that, we're going to play the 2nd string with our middle finger, and then we're going to play the 4th string with our thumb. So we've got this. And to put that in context, from the beginning, here we go. So that's your next little challenge. Practice that hammer on, playing the 6th string simultaneously with your thumb as you do it. Okay then, let's look at the next little part of the intro, which is going to revolve around an A minor chord. I'll play you the intro from the beginning, and I'll tell you when we're getting to the new bit. Here we go from the beginning. And here's the new bit. Okay, so that's the part we've got to learn. So what we're going to do is we are going to hammer on to an A minor chord like that on the left hand, and with our right hand we're going to play, before we hammer on, we're going to play the 2nd string with our middle finger there. And once we've done that, we're going to do two things simultaneously, as happens a lot in this song. We're going to hammer on the A minor shape, and we're particularly interested really in the sound of the 2nd string, that, yeah, okay. But as we hammer on the A minor shape, we're going to play the 5th string with our thumb simultaneously. So we have this. Once we've done that, we're going to play the 3rd string with our index finger, and then 4th string with our thumb. So far we have this. And next, on our left hand, we're going to move our ring finger from the 4th string there, and we're going to put it relative to the capo on the 6th string, 3rd fret there. And then once we've done that, on the right hand, we're going to play the 6th string with our thumb, 3rd string with our index finger, and 4th string with our thumb. So that little move is like this. And let's put that in context of the whole introduction then. So far, here we go. Okay then, let's look at the next little part of the introduction. And again, I'll play you the whole introduction up to the new part, and I'll tell you when the new part is coming in. So here we go. Here's the new bit. Okay, so let's look at that new bit then. It revolves around this chord, which is basically an F chord. You're probably looking at it and thinking it doesn't look exactly like an F chord. If I were to play every string, it would be an F major 7, because its top string is open there. I'm not fretting it. But actually, in the finger picking pattern on this chord, we're not going to play the top string. So we don't have to worry about fretting the top string with our left hand. We can just leave it open, we're not going to play it. And therefore this is actually a standard F chord. And I'm bringing my thumb over here to fret the 6th string at the 1st fret relative to the capo. The reason that we're bringing our thumb over like this as opposed to playing a bar F like that is that we're going to do some hammer-ons, including the thumb itself, and it's easier to do those hammer-ons without barring. It would be difficult to do them when we're barring. There's actually another hammer-on later in the song on this F chord which you couldn't do if you were barring. So, okay, that said, let's look at the right hand pattern now on this chord and how it interacts with the left hand. So again, we're going to start with a hammer on. So this is becoming a pattern, isn't it? And what we're going to do is we're going to play the 2nd string with our middle finger, and as we do that we're going to hammer on that F chord, and we're going to play the 6th string with our thumb as we hammer on. So it's going to sound like this, like that. And then I'm going to play 3rd string with my index finger, 4th string with my thumb. The next thing I'm going to do is go back and play the 2nd string again with my middle finger. But as soon as I've done that, just after I've done that, I'm going to do a little hammer on with my thumb here. So I'm going to remove my thumb from the 6th string and hammer it back on to 6th string 1st fret. So put that in the context of the whole of the phrase. We have this. Okay, now that is quite hard to do and it takes a lot of coordination, and you don't have to do it. Okay, you can miss it out. Just play like this if you want to. Okay, that'll work too. Then all you've got to do is play the 3rd string with your index finger and the 4th string with your thumb. So that whole phrase then is like this. And let's put that in the context of the whole intro to this point. We have this. Okay, so I'm sure you'll be glad to know that we're nearly at the end of the introduction now, not very much more left. And what we've got left basically is going to feature things we've already learned with small variations. So let me play you the story so far and I'll tell you when we get to the new bit, and then we'll break that down. So here's the story so far. Here's the new bit. Okay, so that new part is based upon the C over G chord that we started the introduction with, and the right hand pattern is just a variation really of that very first pattern that we had at the beginning of the intro. So let me play it for you slowly first. Okay, so let's break that down. We're starting with the thumb on the 5th string, then we're going to play 3rd string with index finger, 4th string with thumb, and then top string with our ring finger there, 6th string with our thumb, and then 2nd string with our middle finger, and finally 4th string with our thumb. Okay then, let's look at the next little part of the introduction. I'll play you the story so far and I'll tell you when we get to the new bit, then we'll break it down. Here we go. Here's the new bit. Okay, let's break that down then. Okay then, so we finished the last part on our C over G chord and we were playing this. Now for the next part, we're going to move our left hand into a G7 shape. So when we get to that G7 chord, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to play the second string with our middle finger there, then sixth string with thumb, and then fourth string with thumb, so we have this. Now next we're going to remove our index finger from the top string there, and we're going to play that top string open with our ring finger, and you've probably guessed that once we've done that, we're going to hammer our index finger back onto the top string first fret and simultaneously play the sixth string with our thumb, so we have this. Then we're going to play the second string with our middle finger, and then the fourth string with our thumb. So put that together and we have this. Okay then, so we're on to the very last chord of the intro, and for that very last chord we're going to go back to the C over G chord that we started with. Let me just play you the whole introduction and tell you when we get to that very last bit. So here's the whole intro. Here we go. So let's look at that last C over G chord and what we're going to play there. Now, this is a part that I have to say I don't play verbatim the same as the Dylan recording, but this is what I do. So I start with the thumb playing the fifth string and then the fourth string. And then I take the thumb back to the sixth string. And then index finger on third string, thumb on fourth string, and the middle finger on second string, thumb on sixth string, index finger on third string, thumb on fourth string, and then repeat that. So middle finger second string, thumb sixth string, index finger third string, thumb fourth string, and then you're pretty much into the singing. So you've got ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe. Now, before we move on to the verse, actually, just a word on the feel of the song. So I've been playing it like this, like that, without any damping. Okay, so I'm letting every note kind of ring. Now, I think if you listen to the Dylan recording, the notes are kind of a bit staccato, they're a bit cut off, and I think possibly his damping, I've seen that on some versions of this on the internet. And so if you want to play like that, just take this part of your right hand and just place it just on top of the strings there, just this side of the bridge, okay, towards you, if you like, from the bridge, just there. And if you do that, you'll get a bit more of the Dylan feel. So it's kind of up to you. I kind of don't like playing like that damped, partially because I play with my fingernails. I don't use kind of picks on my fingers or anything, and playing at that angle tends to kind of, for me anyway, ends up with me getting nicks in my fingernails, and then I break them, and I just don't like the feel of it. It's not that I don't like the sound, I don't like the feel of playing like that, but it is a bit more authentic. So it's kind of up to you. I think I'm going to stick to this. But if you want to damp, you'll get more of the Dylan sound. Like that. Okay, let's move on to the verse next then. Now, many of the chords and the right hand patterns that you use on those chords will be familiar to you because they're the same or similar to the chords and the right hand patterns that you met in the introduction. There are one or two new chords and one or two variations that we haven't met yet on the right hand pattern, but most of it's going to be familiar. Anyway, let's begin, and we'll begin with me playing you a demo of the verse. Ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe, if If you don't know by now, ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe. It don't matter anyhow. When your rooster crows at the break of dawn, well, look out your window and I'll be gone. You're the reason I'm traveling on, but don't think twice, it's alright. I've got a lot more to show you on Don't Think Twice, It's Alright, but before I go on to that, let me just say, if you've been enjoying this lesson, please do hit the like button. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel, because then you'll be notified about all of the future guitar lessons that I release. Okay, then let's start looking at the verse of Don't Think Twice. Now, before we really get cracking on this, I just want to make the point that, again, I'm not slavishly trying to reproduce exactly what Dylan played. And I think when you get into playing this, particularly if you're going to sing it as well, you won't do that. You'll find your own way of playing it. So think of this as kind of like a framework. The thumb is really important, and what the thumb is going to do, regardless of the other fingers, the thumb is going to play 5th string, 4th string, 5th string, 6th string, etc. You know, in different variations. And in fact, if I play through the beginning of the song just using my thumb and changing chords with my left hand, you'll see what I mean. So it can sound like this. It ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe, if you don't know by now. There ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe, and so on. So, you know, all we're really doing is taking that thumb pattern and then putting our other fingers, most often index and middle fingers, with a bit of ring thrown in, which means really most often you're putting in the 3rd string with your index and the 2nd with your middle, and occasionally you're hitting the top string there with your ring finger, but you're just adding those other finger stroke strings in for decoration as you're playing. So you end up with something like this. Ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe, if you don't know by now, and so on. So that's the aim. So bear that in mind. I'm going to give you an idea of the kind of patterns you can play, but you can vary. You can throw in that top string sometimes with your ring finger, and sometimes you can play in between the bass notes with your thumb. You can play using your middle finger and ring finger. Other times, not, or just put in that one note with your index finger there on the 3rd string. Other times it can be using index and middle. So treat this like a rough framework. But anyway, let's get started on the verse now. Okay, so we'll go through the verse chord by chord, starting with the first chord, which is our C over G. And this very first pattern we're going to play is very similar to the first pattern in the introduction of the song. So it's going to be this. Ain't no use in. So all that is 5th string with your thumb, 4th string with your thumb, 6th string with your thumb, 3rd string with your index finger, 4th string with your thumb. Ain't no use in. Okay, so that's our first chord. Okay, so our first chord was a C over G. Our second chord is going to be a G7. So let me play you those two chords so you've got the G7 in context. Ain't no use in sitting wondering. Okay, so ain't no use in, then that's the bit we know. Then we're going to change to our G7 on the left hand. And on the right hand, we're going to start by playing the 2nd string with our middle finger. And then we're going to play 6th string with our thumb, and then 3rd string with our index finger, 4th string with our thumb, and then top string with our ring finger, having removed our index finger on the left hand, so we're playing it open. And we're going to do exactly the same figure that we were used to from the introduction, where we're going to play that top string open. We're going to hammer on 1st fret with our index finger on the top string, the left hand, and at the same time play the bass. and then second string with the index finger, fourth string with the thumb. So we've got this. Ain't no use in sitting wondering. Okay, then let's look at our next little pattern in the verse. And again, this is similar to stuff we've met in the introduction. It's a walk down from A minor through a G in the bass down to our F chord. So let me play it for you in context then, starting from the top. Ain't no use in sitting wondering, here we go, why babe? And down to that F. Okay, so let's look at that part next then. Okay, let me show you how to play that A minor to G in the bass to F rundown. So I'll show you the easiest way to do it first, which is like this. So let me call that out to you. I'm just going to call out the numbers of the strings, okay, because I think you know which digits we use to play them. So starting with the A minor chord, it's 5, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4. Then move your ring finger from the 4th string to 6th string, 3rd fret, play the 6th string with your thumb, and then string 3, string 4. So we have this, and then down to the F chord, and just play the bass, and I'll talk about the F chord and the pattern on that in a minute. So, and I think Dylan does quite a simple rundown, a bit like that. Now, the way you can embellish it, and I like doing this, is throwing in some middle finger on the 2nd string, okay? So the more complex of the two patterns I showed you there, so I showed you 5, 4, and I showed you 5, 3, 4, or sometimes it was 6, 3, 4, okay? But anyway, take the more complex, 5, 3, 4 on the A minor there. Now if you just throw in string 2 at the end of that pattern, you have this. Okay, 5, 3, 4, 2, and speed it up. And then put that in. On some of those rundown patterns you have this. Okay, which I think is a nice embellishment. So personally, I do tend to use my middle finger in that rundown. So now we come to an F chord, and this is actually my very favourite part of the song. It's the same F chord we used in the introduction, so although the top string is open, it doesn't matter because we're not playing that top string. So let me put it in context for you by playing the verse up to this point. Ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe, if you don't know by now. So it's that, if you don't know by, that's the part we're looking at on that F chord, all right? So that has a lovely hammer on, and I'm tempted to show you that first. So let's do that, in fact. The hammer on is on the 3rd string, okay? So it's index finger stuff on the right hand. Now, to play that hammer on, it's not at the start of this pattern, but I'll show you it first anyway. You're going to remove your middle finger from the 3rd string 2nd fret. You're going to play 3rd string open. You're going to hammer your middle finger onto the 2nd fret and the 3rd string on the left hand. But as you do it, as always, you're going to play the bass note 6th string with your thumb. So you have this, and then you're going to play the middle, the 2nd string with your middle finger. So you have, and throwing that in is just brilliant. It just sounds fantastic, I think. Bit tricky, you have to keep on practicing it, but when you get it, it's wonderful. So let's put that in context. So what we're doing, I'm doing something like this, and again, I'd vary it. I'm not always going to play exactly the same thing, okay, but something like this. So again, I'll just call out the numbers of the strings. So something like 6, 4, 6, 3, 4, 6, 4, hammer on, 2nd string, 4th strings, something like that. Okay, so just practice that. It's a really nice effect to get into the song. And when you speed it up, it's going to sound a bit like this. If you don't know by now, which is just lovely, I think. Okay, so after that F chord, the next part of the verse is basically C over G moving to G7, and pretty much the same patterns as we played on our last C over G to G7 in the verse. So let me just put that into context for you. I'm not going to show you in detail how to play this because you can just now hopefully adapt the patterns you've already learned and reuse them. So from the start of the verse, ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe, if you don't know by now. Okay, so after that then we're back to what I kind of think of as the second part of the verse, back to the C over G chord again. Ain't no use in sitting wondering, which is the same again, C over G to G7, and then again we've got our A minor rundown. Why, babe? So A minor to G, the same as the last A minor rundown, except that instead of landing on the F chord, this time we're going to land on a chord that is new, if you like, in terms of our learning of this song, which is a D7, but it's a D7 over F sharp. Now the way I do that is I bring my thumb over there and fret the F sharp on the 6th string 2nd fret relative to the capo with my thumb. You don't have to do it like that, there's other fingerings, but that's my preferred, but I use my thumb for the F, so it's kind of convenient. So let me play the verse up to that point so you can see where we've got to. Ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe, if you don't know by now. Ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe. Then on to this new chord. It don't matter any. So let's look at that next chord then, our D7 over F sharp chord. So everything we play in this song is a variation on everything else in terms of the right hand pattern. So hopefully you're kind of getting into the swing of how to improvise a bit around this framework of chords that we've got. This one anyway, I'm going to play a bit like this. So you probably noticed we have a lovely little hammer on there as well. It's a top string hammer on in this case. So what are we doing there then? So something like this. So something like 6, 4, 6, 3, 4, 6, 3, 4, 2. So far. And once we've done that, we're going to do our hammer on. Now, to do our hammer on, we're going to play the top string, which remember is with our ring finger. So we're going to take off our left hand ring finger from that top string, play the top string with our right hand ring finger, then we're going to hammer our ring finger, on the left hand back on to the top string 2nd fret relative to the capo, and of course as we do that we're playing the 6th string with our thumb on the right hand, and then 2nd string with our middle finger and 4th string with our thumb. So we end up with something like this. Okay, so the next thing we have is a G7, but it's a different form of G7 to the one we've been using so far. It's going to sound about a bit like this. A little bit like that. So let me put that in context for you by playing the verse up to that point. Ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe, if you don't know by now. Ain't no use in sitting wondering why, babe, it don't matter anyhow. So it's that last bit we're looking at. A bit like that. So what are we doing there? Start with your ring finger on your left hand on the 6th string 3rd fret relative to the capo, and the pattern we're going to play is this. So let's look at that. We're playing 6th string, 4th string. Next, on our left hand, we're going to put our middle finger on the 4th string, 2nd fret there, and we're going to play with our right hand 6th string, 3rd string, 4th string. So far with this. Next, we're going to take our little finger there on the left hand and we're going to put it on the 4th string, 3rd fret. And this is what gives us our G7. We're kind of walking up to it and now we've got there. And then on the right hand, we're going to play 6, 4, 6, 3, 4. So that pattern, if I put it together, is this. Okay, next we're on to the "When your rooster crows at the break of dawn" part of the verse. I love that lyric. I think it's wonderful. Anyway, that uses C major and C7. So let me play it for you a bit like the Bob Dylan way of doing it first. I'll show you a variation in a moment, but a bit like this. So starting on C and going to C7. So when your rooster crows at the break of dawn, like that. Okay, now what you're doing there on the C, you're starting with 5, 4, okay, in terms of string numbers, rooster, and then you can move to 5, 3, 4, 2. Okay, so 5, 3, 4, 2, 5, 3, 4, 2, 5, 3, 4, 2, 5, 3, 4, 2. And then speed that up and you have "When your rooster crows at the..." Okay. Change to C7 just by putting your little finger on the 4th string, 3rd fret relative to the capo there. Same thing. Break of dawn. Okay, so you have this. "When your rooster crows at the break of dawn." Okay, so the variation I do is that instead of just playing 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4 in the bass, I tend to like playing 5, 4, 6, 4, 5, 4, 6, 4 on that rooster crow parts of the song. And what that means is I tend to use a C over G chord, which allows me to play 5, 4, 6, 4. And then when I go to the C7, then when you want to play the 6th string, you've got to move your ring finger on the left hand from the 5th string, 3rd fret to the 6th string, 3rd fret relative to the capo to allow you to do that. So you end up with this: "When your rooster crows at the break of dawn." Okay, so the rooster has crowed at the break of dawn. And the next thing that's going to happen is you can look out your window and I'll be gone, all right? And that works on 2 chords that we've already met: our F chord and our D7 over F sharp chord. Okay, and you can play the same patterns that I showed you a few minutes ago for those chords, or your own variations on them really. But it's going to sound a bit like this, starting from the rooster crows bit. "When your rooster crows at the break of dawn, well, look out your window and I'll be gone." Okay, so that bit then is just F to D7 over F sharp. And next we're into the kind of culmination of the verse, which is "You're the reason I'm travelling on, but don't think twice, it's all right." And the chords for that, we're going to start on a C over G, and then we go to G7. Again, we can use our familiar patterns for these. "Reason I'm..." And then travelling on, that's our A minor to G in the bass to F rundown. Travelling on, okay? And then on that F chord that you land on, again, your familiar pattern, you can play that nice hammer on or not, it's up to you. Travelling on. Okay, so we're on to our very last couple of chord changes then of the verse. So it's the "but don't think twice, it's all right" part. It's going to sound like this: "But don't think twice, it's all right." So let's look at that then. Starting on our C over G chord, familiar pattern, don't think twice. And then we get to the word twice, actually we're going to change. Now, we're going to end up with our sort of alternate G7 using our little finger at 4th string 3rd fret, but we're going to get there in a different way. So start by putting your ring finger on the 6th string 3rd fret relative to the capo and your middle finger on the 4th string 2nd fret relative to the capo. That's your starting position, and you're going to play something like 6th string, 3rd string, 4th string. And optionally you can put in the 2nd string with your middle finger. So that bit's up to you. And once you've done that, then you're going to put your little finger on the left hand onto the 4th string 3rd fret relative to the capo, and you're going to do the same right hand pattern. So it can be just 6, 3, 4, or you could do 6, 3, 4, 2. It's up to you. So you'll have something like this. Don't think twice, it's all. And then on the syllable right of all right, you go back to your C over G and you just play your familiar pattern. Twice. Something like that. So you have this. Don't think twice, it's all right.